My name is David Sanchez. I am the founder and director of a Los Angeles-based outreach organization called Strike Out Against Drugs. We're in a battle, we're in a fight. There's more drug dealers and more gangs and more drugs out there than we can handle. The age of kids using drugs is at the lowest that it's ever been in history. If it started with marijuana, maybe it's already made it to crystal meth, maybe it's already made it to heroin. Behind every tree, behind every building, there's a drug dealer giving drugs to a little kid and trying to make him a drug dealer. But do we give up the fight because of that? No. I knew that I had to find a way to educate people, because knowing about something that can hurt you is half the battle of being able to defeat. Redondo Beach is a good place to raise a family. It's got good schools. These are some of the last pictures that are in existence of me as a younger child and going through my teens. This one right here, I was probably about 6 or 7 years old. Everything was normal. Life was good. The second one is a picture of me and my brother Jimmy. I think I was probably around 9 at this point. So around this age is when the marijuana actually started coming into my life. One of my neighbors thought it would be a good idea or a funny situation to see a 9-year-old child be high on marijuana. What he didn't realize was that was going to end up affecting the rest of my life. We are here in Redondo Beach, the city that I was born and raised in. This is the corner of Matthews and Vale. My family had a house here at 2305 Matthews. Our garage was kind of the meeting place for the people, the kids in the neighborhood, because we could shut the garage door down and sit in there and experiment with drugs. First time I ever did heroin was right here on this property. First time I ever did crystal meth was right here on this property. Most of the people that I grew up with are either dead or in prison. By the time I was 15 years old, I had already gone through the gauntlet, pretty much everything you could possibly think of. I just kept going and going and going farther and farther into my addiction, into doing crimes on the streets. This is Los Angeles Men's Central Jail, otherwise known as LA County Jail. This is where I spent most of my younger years as an adult. I was sentenced here when I turned 18. I've spent so many years in this brick building right here. It's only by the grace of God that I was able to actually survive. When I finally had lost everything in my life, literally walking the streets, one set of clothing, no money, not even a phone to call anybody, I decided to make a change in my life. I didn't know if I could do it, but I knew I needed a change. When I finally got sober, I started realizing that we need more people to reach out and try to help the situation. Because if we just ignore it, it's not going to go away. You know, and this drug epidemic, it's not even an epidemic, it's a pandemic. We are over here off of 8th and Alvarado. This area right here, this whole area right here is, you know, gang infested. There's probably 7 or 8 different gangs that are kind of reside around MacArthur Park and the surrounding areas, and they're all kind of battling each other to take over the drug trade. A lot of shootings go on around here. Right here on this corner, we witnessed a guy get murdered and shot. He laid there for 2 hours before the police showed up because everybody in this neighborhood is afraid to be the ones that called the police because they don't want no type of retaliation. Just drive up and down the streets is very dangerous because they don't know this car, they don't know who I am, and if they don't know you, there's a good chance that they're going to want to find out who you are. So we're going to drive up out of here. So I started thinking, yeah, I've seen this happen, I've seen that happen, and I can help somebody else with that knowledge. So we had an idea to open up a sober living. Me, my brother, and one of our other people that I worked with. We're here at the Beacon of Hope. We are a transitional sober living. We bring people here that are still working on their sobriety, and we give them the kind of tools that they need to become productive citizens out in our community. We're the largest single address sober living in all Los Angeles. This is where we have the majority of the rooms. The purpose of housing people here is to help them move forward, give them a new start, and help them on their way to become successful. It's important to have them out here doing stuff because it gives them a sense of responsibility as well as going out, finding employment. So this helps them orientate themselves to getting back into the workforce, getting used to working again.
I met a girl and she introduced me to methamphetamine, and then it kind of progressed into staying up for 2-3 days at a time. It just kind of spiraled out of control. Working with David has been spiritually, emotionally, and physically beneficial to me. It takes a lot of heart for someone to start an organization like this.
But I felt like I needed to do more. Something was telling me, you need to do more, David. You are helping all these people, these adults, and I'm talking to them and I'm figuring out that most started when they were kids. So I knew that I wanted to do something with the younger generation. And that's when I decided to create Strike Out Against Drugs. I knew I couldn't do it alone, so I started looking into it and trying to find an organization that I could work with. But there was a lot of organizations that didn't want to work with me because of who I was. That because of my past and because of my record, parents would never let me in front of kids, and they didn't want to ruin their reputation by allowing me to be part of what they were doing. I knew that not everybody has the same experience and information that I wanted to present to these kids. But when I started Strike Out Against Drugs, nobody believed in me. For somebody to say, oh, you know, David's changed and all that kind of stuff, that takes time. I remember sitting in the back on the top deck of my house and looking down and seeing the school kids walking up the alley. This alley is a known alley for drug dealing, for gang activity. The police are here all the time. The shoes on the power lines indicates that there's drugs being sold. I noticed that this alley is a walkway for elementary school kids. They were stepping over people that were sleeping on the ground. There was syringes on the ground, there was pipes on the ground, there was beer bottles on the ground, all this stuff. And I started thinking, wow, you know, these kids are actually going to grow up to think that this type of lifestyle is acceptable. So I had to find an organization that was like-minded, that had the will and the want to get out there and make a change in the community. I was grocery shopping for our facility, and Drug Free World had a booth out there. Drug Free World has the facts about drugs, the truth about drugs, you know, all the statistics, the different names. I started reading some of their pamphlets and I was like, wow, this stuff is pretty amazing. So I made the phone call. The Church of Scientology, they're the sponsors of the Foundation for a Drug-Free World. And I went in there and we had a meeting. And right away, we knew that we were going to end up doing some wonderful things in the community. They send me hundreds of boxes, and they've never asked me for a dime. Everything is free. And then I started working with Drug-Free World. We went and we did our first presentation. We're here in Sunland. We've been invited to come here and do a drug presentation for the kids here at this school. There should be around 60 or 70 kids. We're going to give them our information and give them our material. So here we are, and let's go get them. Drugs is a simple way of masking that problem. It's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on something, but the sore never goes away. The smart thing to do is educate yourself. What's a good reason to know what the truth about drugs is?
So you can't become the adverse effect of them, so you can help other people either get off or not start.
Good. We were able to bring a presentation that was so powerful that, I had kids coming up to me and hugging me. A 9-year-old kid to come up after you and say, my mother's on drugs and I'm going to take her this material and I'm going to try to explain to her what you explained to me. That's the most touching thing that can ever happen. You've just changed somebody's life. Working with Drug-Free World, we were able to start getting into other schools. And then it kind of just went by, we heard about your program. Can you come over here? I usually take people from my facility to come and speak.
I was around your age. I was only about 8 or 9 or 10 years old when I first took my first drink of alcohol. I was just curious. I had to understand what was going on inside. And I had to realize that I could have stopped this a long time ago.
Everybody just started calling us because the program is so good.
Educating yourself on drugs, addiction, things like that. You guys have to take advantage of this. Do drugs hurt you? Yes! Drugs and addiction do not care what color you are.
And once people started hearing the message that we had to bring, it was just one thing after another, after another, after another, after another, sometimes 7 days a week.
With David showing how he took drugs from when he was little and how it affected him, it shows what would actually happen now, what situations you could actually get into.
Drugs can ruin your life, your mental health, and your future. Now that I know the truth about drugs, I can tell people, I can warn people, and I know I'm not gonna do it.
You don't want to end up like the people in the streets that only want money for drugs and don't know what they're doing. I just know what decisions that I'm gonna make, and it's not to do drugs.
David is going around and sharing and educating us so that we can help our students and so that we can save lives. It takes not just one person, but it takes all of us to be able to continue to spread that word.
We gotta tell them where we've been, what we've seen, in order to help them. And I think David is helping to stop the lie, and we are helping to tell the truth about drug abuse.
Then I thought to myself, okay, how can we get this material out there? More than just doing presentations, more than being in schools. How can we start to actually get this stuff on the streets?
You don't gotta lose your life to live one. You don't gotta prove yourself to give one.
So every weekend, if I wasn't doing some special event, I was out there on the streets of Los Angeles giving out this material.
You can trust.
Everywhere I went, you walk out to my car right now, my trunk is full to the brim of material because anywhere I go, I just give it out.
Like the current, the river, 'cause we came to deliver to the menaces, kids and the visitors, regardless of crimes, rates, or prisoners. Because everybody's moving up and up.
I hit the streets as much as I possibly could.